This is Stephanie at Hightower Stitching with the next update on my hexagon quilt. If you remember, my husband was going to burn up a chair, and in taking the fabric off so that it wouldn't make a loud smell, he was just going to throw it away. He found a full quilt which had been folded and stuffed in there, and it was this hexagon pattern with the Baptist fan stitching on top. If you remember, instead of the rows running straight across, they ran diagonally. And so I want to give you an update. I've got the top finished. It's ready to be the back put on it and the batting. But two things, there are a couple things I wanted to share with you. One of them is that when you start, and you probably will start with one of the top rows that has 5 parts in it, take and put a label up there so you know that's the top of the quilt. And then as you work, always work from the same side. And on this, I would say work from the left side. So put a sign that says, this is the start sign. That's how I messed myself up. Years and years of quilting, you can always do something wrong. Because I actually started at the other side a couple of times because I thought, oh, I'm all the way over here. I'm going to start back across. Big mistake. And this has certainly become my quilt, because you can see there was one place when I thought I was really had my rows off, and I actually thought I was squaring up a corner. And when I got a couple more rows down, I said, oh my gosh, I'm glad I saved that piece, because guess what? I had to come back and stitch it on there. But I think when the rest of the stitching goes on, it's not going to be noticeable because the quilt's so big. Because this quilt is hand stitched, on the right hand side I drew a line all the way down to cut off those pieces. And because of that, I didn't cut them off. I went back and I made a row of stitches down that line to help stabilize those. And you probably will do the same thing on the top, where you're going to clip some off, and on the maybe on the bottom. And my longest row, diagonal rows, there were about 4 or 5, they have 24 hexagons in them, both the colored rows and the cream rows. And when I got finished, it was amazing, because I was glad I'd marked the top and the sides, because it was so big and I was holding it in my lap to hand stitch it. It ended up being 74 by 82. And I may end up doing this with the sewing machine, doing the Baptist fan. I can't quite make up my mind, because that's a lot of stitching for hand stitching on this one. This is a fun shape to work with, and to run the rows diagonally is a nice challenge. And you can do multiple blocks, like in the old quilt, like there's 3 blues there, a couple black ones there, a couple greens down there, and that makes it very old-fashioned looking. And that's the update on this quilt. Part 3 will come eventually. This is Stephanie at Hightower Stitching. I hope you enjoyed this video.